The Holy Gospel according to Luke. Glory to you, O Lord. On one occasion, when Jesus was going to the house of a leader of the Pharisees to eat a meal on the Sabbath, they were watching him closely. When he noticed how the guests chose the places of honor, he told them a parable. When you are invited by someone to a wedding banquet, do not sit down at the place of honor, in case someone more distinguished than you has been invited by your host. And the host who invited both of you may come and say to you, "Give this person your place." And then in disgrace you would start to take the lowest place. But when you are invited, go and sit down at the lowest place, so that when your host comes, he may say to you, "Friend, move up higher." Then you will be honored in the presence of all who sit at the table with you. For all who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. He said also to the one who had invited him, "When you give a luncheon or a dinner, do not invite your friends or your brothers and sisters or your relatives or rich neighbors, in case they may invite you in return and you would be repaid. But when you give a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, and the blind, and you will be blessed because they cannot repay you, for you will be repaid at the resurrection of the righteous." The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, O Christ. A place for everything and everything in its place. It's so simple, so proverb-like, so beautiful of a sentiment, words to live by. It's no secret that I like things neatly organized. If we had projection screens in our worship space, I could have prepared a whole slideshow to accompany this sermon with before and after photos of the pastor's vestry, or the church office, or even our church database. And that's just a starting point. A place for everything, and everything in its place. So maybe I'm a little obsessed with order. Order pervades our public spaces too, in different ways. We're used to clear boundaries and places of honor and distinction. In corporate workplaces, there's a difference between the corner office and an ordinary cubicle. At restaurants, when given the choice, we'd rather sit at the window booth or on the patio than at the table with the wobbly leg by the restrooms. Airplane seating, perhaps a relic of a different time, is still arranged by class, although one could argue that on most commercial domestic flights, there's hardly a difference between those seats in front of the curtain and the ones behind, except a few $100s in ticket price. But I digress, and still, you get the point. There are clear places viewed more highly than others. All of which, I think, helps us to understand the premise behind Jesus' parable. He's invited to the house of a prominent religious leader for a grand meal with elite guests, all of whom are competing for the best seats closest to their host, where they can be seen and recognized. Meanwhile, Jesus, quietly observing all of this from the side, offers a parable. Actually, don't take the best seat, he says. What if someone more important comes along? Well, that would be pretty embarrassing for you, wouldn't it? Instead, just take the lowest seat. And as if that weren't enough, Jesus goes on to critique the guest list of the very party he's been invited to. Don't invite all of these important people who can invite you back and repay you, but just the opposite. Invite the ones who can't pay you back, the ones with no social standing, the ones you would normally overlook. But this isn't quite so simple. This isn't a lesson about table etiquette, It's not a story about place cards or table reservations. The point isn't really even about who sits where. This is a story about humility. Humility. It's a strange concept. Humility wasn't exactly considered a virtue in Jesus' day, and it's not exactly the most intuitive in our own time either. Humility is often seen as the opposite of pride, and we like to take pride in our identities and our achievements, and there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe we need a better definition of humility. Now, as you also might know about me, if you've ever spent more than a few minutes talking with me, I used to live in Chicago for a while, where I grew accustomed to the peculiarities of public transit. As a daily train and bus passenger myself for several years, though the scene is certainly not unique to the Chicago Transit Authority alone. Picture it. A crowded bus or train car at rush hour. An elderly man or maybe a pregnant woman gets on, not a single seat to be found, when all of a sudden a fellow passenger, apparently in search of a gold star, gets up, so graciously and publicly making a display of giving up their seats so that this other person could take it, so that everyone can see what a good person they are. I've seen it more than once. That's not humility. Instead, I want to suggest that humility is something more like standing up before that person gets on, making a place for others before they show up. Humility acknowledges that there are others who are not yet at the table. It doesn't ask us to consider ourselves as less valuable or to take the lower place for its own sake. But humility does invite us to be aware of others who don't always get a place at the table, and to make space for them, even if we don't know who they are, even if they're not here yet. Humility is the grace to live in community and to embody the kind of extravagant welcome and hospitality that Jesus showed when he dined not just with prominent Pharisees, but with tax collectors and sinners. Still, there's sometimes this hesitation for those of us who have always had a place of distinction, a place of privilege at the table. And I think that hesitation boils down to fear. Fear that there's not going to be enough space, enough food, enough. Whenever I'm at a large conference or gathering where a meal that's being served buffet style, I seem to have a knack for either choosing or being assigned to one of the last tables to be dismissed to get our food. I'm also not exactly known for being the most patient person, as I keep eyeing the line and the buffet tables, letting my anxiety get the better of me. Surely they'll run out of food before it's our turn. And yet, in all of my years of buffet meals, there has always been enough. Of course, there is enough. At God's banquet table, there is a place for all, and enough for all. That's Jesus' point. I don't think he really cared about who sat where. Instead, he's showing us what the reign of God looks like. A place for everyone, and everyone has a place. No reservations required, no cost, no dress code, no prerequisites to share in this meal. We don't even have to all agree about what we believe to share this meal. We just have to be hungry for a word of grace and forgiveness and wholeness. Christ invites us to the table whether we think we belong or not. Christ invites us to this table where all are welcome, where no one is turned away, where there is enough for all, and where no one lacks for food.